Great defeaters, new and old. Welcome back to another riveting episode of The Breakdown with your host, BaseDaKID, and the sometimes host, Tony, the Pugilist boy. We are the children of the game. Tony, how are you?
My friend, I'm well. I'm very tired. A long trip to Sheffield yesterday. Obviously, pleasurable trip. And I need to catch some sleep. So, without further delay, let's get in amongst it. Let's greet the defeaters and let's get it on.
All right, fair enough. First things first, Dan the man, SC15, hardest working guy on Twittex, is number one in the building today. So big ups to you, Dan. Bigsy Biggs also in the building. Philip Answer in the building. Tyler MF Durden, Clive Gordon, and Jonah31 are the people who have made their presence known thus far. But big salute and big up and thanks to everyone who is watching, silent or otherwise. Really appreciate it. Yeah, this one we're gonna dive straight into it. Gonna keep it moving, keep things rolling. Um, I guess since the top rank card was officially a double header over the weekend, I suppose that we will start with that card. And we will start with one of those co-main events, which was Luis Alberto Lopez, aka Bernardo Lopez, against Rayo Abe. So, Tony, as I know that you watched this one quite intently, I will let you start with your assessments of this fight.
Okay. So, as I usually do, I have a bit of footage. I have a little bit of picturage. So let's kick it off. Luis Alberto Lopez against Rei Abe from Japan. Both came in on weight. As you can see, Abe had a height advantage and length advantage, but that came to no advantage for him when they got into the ring. Luis Alberto stepped on the gas from round one, and his somewhat distinct style of boxing, which is very gung-ho, just nailed his opponent from the very get-go. This is the end of the fight in round 8. Very much you can see the style, the sort of washerwoman almost type punches that you see from Alberto Lopez. Those kind of punches are his signature. We've seen those before against Josh Warrington. He does fight in that way. He's very much a slugger, but he's an effective slugger. You know, he moves his head well. He moves his feet well. He jumps in with a lot of his shots. So when he's out of distance and you least expect it, he'll jump in using both feet and catch you with big hooks. And that's what he used to great effect against this opponent who just didn't have anything necessary to stop Lopez in his tracks and try to, make this a two-sided contest. This was literally a one-sided beatdown for me from round one to the end when the referee jumped in and stopped the fight, as you saw in the footage there. As a featherweight, it's a loaded division. We're going to watch the WBA vacant title in our next review. A very good pair of candidates are contesting that. And they're going to be looking over their shoulder earlier in the evening and thinking to themselves, do I want to get a piece of that guy if I'm going to be in a unification? But the other champions are also very good in this division. So, and this is one of the nice things about boxing. People who will spout absolute rubbish about, boxing's failing, boxing's on its dying death, boxing is losing out to the UFC and MMA. Rubbish. The sport is thriving. There are great boxers in all sorts of places. And there are great matchups in all sorts of places. I mean, we had a bumper year last year. the highlight of which was for me Spence versus Crawford, which I attended. But this year again, we've started to see it. We're only in March, and we're already seeing some great matchups starting to begin to come to fruition. And, you know, look, the lighter weights have got to be given their props. There are some serious contenders down in the lighter weights, not least of which is one of my favorites, Naoya Inoue. But, you know, just last week we were looking at Nakatani. We were looking at the other Inoue brother, you know. So these guys are deserving of their flowers. They're deserving of the credit. And, you know, in Luis Alberto Lopez, we have a very unusual style, one which we don't see in, I don't think, any other fighter currently fighting. And literally, it's a style that is working and working to great effect. You know, he's taken out some really good people on the up run, and he's a threat at this weight against all the other great champions and possibly at other weights going upwards. So long may it continue. We'll continue to watch his story with great attention.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, Ryo Bay was kind of out of his depth a little bit. Probably he would have done much better against someone who was a bit more conventional than Luis Alberto Lopez. One of the main issues that I saw in Ryo's style is he had really good footwork. He had good movement around the ring. That was probably underrated, especially sort of in those first couple of rounds. But the problem was whenever he was moving, especially when he was moving to his right to try and stay away from the right hand of Lopez, he kept his arms almost by they was like by his side a lot of the time, or they was like in his chest, like they was never protecting his head. Now I don't know if that was maybe a tactic to say that Lopez can't see where a shot's coming from because it's not coming from direct out of line of sight, it's coming from lower down, but it just meant that he was never in a position to defend himself in the earlier rounds. Now obviously we saw right at the end where he basically covered up and the ref jumped in sort of in the eighth round because obviously the onslaught just carried on. But that was an adjustment that was made way too late, and ultimately being in the ring just with a high guard against Lopez is not going to get it done. You've basically got to either throw when he throws, or you've got to get inside his range to nullify the sort of the wild flurries. But yeah, it was as you said, it was a pretty one-sided event. I mean, Abe he deserved his shot. He got himself into that contention, but he just either wasn't ready for it or he's just not of the level. I guess we won't truly know until his next fight outside of Japan, or even in Japan, but his next opponent of any credible note that you know we can we can see and assess, and we know their record and we know what they bring to the table. That'll kind of determine, I guess, maybe if he's got any potential to go there again. But I believe he's 34 now, so chances are that was last chance saloon. But at least he got the shot, and as a true warrior, as a true Japan spirit, he didn't quit. He didn't find a way out of the fight. He took his lumps, he took his beating, and the ref is the one that stopped the fight. So I guess in some semblance, I will always give the respect to that. Um, yeah, if you've got nothing else to contribute to that, then we can move on to the. I guess we can actually go to the Channel 5 card, which obviously started on the zone, started on YouTube, but that took place on Friday. We can just talk real quick about Abbas Barou against Sam Eggington. Now, with this fight, I was it was not the first time I've seen. It was the first time I've seen a full fight of Abbas Barou. Um, but what I did notice, I was saying to a few people, he has a very eerily similar visual style and presentation and face even to Terence Crawford. He has a look of Terence Crawford about him. Not necessarily in terms of skill set and levels like that, but even some of the movements that he made in the ring, I did see, Crawford-esque, like maybe that was someone he looked at and maybe styled himself after, but he actually looks a little bit like him. So that was something that sort of I kept kind of fixating on during the fight. But one thing I do, what I kind of liked about this is he never got panicked in between the flurries and in between the work rate of Eggington, because Eggington pretty much said from the start, like, you're not going to be able to outwork me. Like, if you think that you're going to basically take this title, like one shot at a time, or you're going to get the time to do what you want to do in the ring, that's not what's going to that's not what's going to happen at all. And in those first few rounds, Barou definitely had to sort of tuck up. He had to hold his feet, had to keep a tight guard, had to stay composed, stay switched on. But he was definitely good at basically throwing when Eggington threw, especially when he would feel maybe the first or the second jab of a combination. He would always be able to throw kind of on the third one and match him and match the shots. And then after I think it was after round three, is when he decided to sit closer to Eggington, um, stop the movement, stop Eggington be able to move backward, and just stick with him, stick to his chest basically, and throw with him and just work when he's working. But his shots were just always a lot tighter, more compact. Um, I won't necessarily say they were harder shots, but they were cleaner shots. There was definitely the judge, the crowd, everyone could always tell visibly when he was landing a good clean shot. Even though Eggington probably threw more, he possibly could have even landed a couple more per round in those first few rounds. But Barreu he was just able to land the cleaner, more effective work, which obviously caught the judge's eyes, caught my eyes, and the fact that he basically also marshaled and controlled the ring. And this carried on all the way through to about round eight, round nine, where I initially predicted that Barreu would sort of get a stoppage between the ninth and the 11th. That was sort of my thought process. And in the ninth, he ended up landing a big overhand right in the pocket with Eggington. And then as he was barreling forward to try and close off the salvo and expand on it, you saw Eggington basically grab hold, and then he started smiling, and the smile almost kind of said to you, okay, yeah, you got me. And that definitely hurt him. He managed to survive that, and then he managed to survive again in the 10th. The 11th was a little bit more competitive, but again, he got caught in the 11th with a pretty hard shot. Um, and then outside of that, in the 12th, it was a bit more competitive between the two of them. They were both sort of swinging for the fences towards the back end of that, and I think there was one or two shots that almost landed after the bell as well. But that being said, it was a pretty dominant performance by Barreu. He had to work hard for it, but there was no contention over who won the fight, how the fight was scored. I think there was one card that was 117, 111, which was maybe a little bit harsh on Eggington, but ultimately I could probably see 9 rounds if I looked really close for it. I think the 116, 112s were sort of more of uh the right mold. But look, Sam Eggington's been a former European champion at 147, came up a bit short at 154, but he's still entertaining. He's one of those guys where losses mean nothing. He's a Derek Chisora when it comes to losses. Like, he puts on good quality fights. And it's just a case of you put him in there. He's a high level journeyman. He's a gatekeeper to the next level, but he's always in an entertaining fight. So I'm always gonna be interested to see him when he fights again. So I still don't understand when he said that Sky said that, or Boxer said that he wasn't entertaining enough for them to put on Sky. I still can never wrap my head around that, because he's probably entertainment personified. I don't think I've ever seen a boring fight from Sam Eggington. But yeah, obviously commiserations to him. But Congrats to Abbas Barou, and I will be keeping an eye on his future fights, provided I am given notice of them. I definitely want to see what he comes with next. Um, let uh, right, so we're gonna keep this one moving along swiftly. I know Tony's throat's a little sore, so I'm gonna save his talk for the main event. We're gonna head back over to the States and the zone card. And what I want to talk about real quick was the start of the main broadcast, which was Crystal Rosardo against Gloria Mongia. Spelt slightly different to Jaime, but yeah. Now this was Crystal was 2-0, I believe, and Gloria was 5-0. So this was a battle of the unbeaten's. This was at I think this was at flyweight. Um, I think it's flyweight and super flyweight. But Crystal Rosado basically is Puerto Rican, so she is managed by Most Valuable Promotion. She's one of Amanda Serrano's most recent signings, and she's got a very quite vast amateur background as well. Gloria Mongia, not as much of an amateur background, but she's obviously been a fighter from, I guess, just those Mexican streets, so she kind of knows how yeah, she just basically knows how to work the ring. Very hard work rate, very long work rate. Um, throws punches in bunches. Um, I will be honest, the scorecards, and the only reason I really want to speak about this one is because the scorecards, there was one scorecard that had it a draw, 38-38 to both women, and the other two scorecards were 40-36 for Crystal Rosado. Those scorecards were not truthful. They were inaccurate. I will quite happily say that. Me personally, when I was watching on the zone, I wasn't heavily scoring it, but I was banking all the rounds as I was watching. I was watching that, and I was also watching the top rank card at the same time. Personally, I had Gloria Mongia actually winning the fight, 37-39, as the away fighter. I kind of knew that Crystal would get the decision, um, but I thought she would probably get that same scorecard. So when I saw the draw card, I thought, okay, that's fine. But then when I saw the 240-36 cards, I said, yeah, that one there is nasty work, because there's no way that you can give her all 4 rounds, no matter what side of the ring you were on. Um, Me personally, I think she lost the first. I think she won the second. Um, I think she just got outworked slightly in the third to lose that one, and she definitely lost the fourth. So, and every time a clean shot was landed, it was always Gloria Monguida that was catching the clean shots. So yeah, it's not just about the eye-catching work. She outworked her for the majority of it. Crystal's got a good one too, had good movement, a good sort of jab. um wasn't Needs to straighten up the backhand a bit more. It was a bit sloppy from her. Obviously it was a big homecoming type fight. Half the arena was full by the time she's fighting, probably something she wasn't expecting. So it's one of those gifts that you kind of get as a novice. um but I'll be very keen to see how she progresses moving forward, because she does have very good fundamentals. But yeah, I'll kind of see what she looks like when she's under pressure. So hopefully she can tidy that up. But that being said, she's only 21, so it's not the end of the world. She's very young and can come again. And technically, she won the fight, so um, yeah, congrats to her. Also, but commiserations to Gloria Mongia. A very fun fight. If anyone hasn't seen it and wants to watch it, feel free. Uh, Also on that card was um it was Jonathan Bomba Gonzalez against Rene Santiago. This was at Light Fly, and this was obviously a very interesting bout, purely because you had um if Gonzalez got through this, as Santiago was the interim champ, so basically this was a consolidation to get rid of the interim status. But for him to get through this, I don't think he now has a mandatory to take on next. He may do, but I think that may be able to get pushed aside so that Kenshiro Taraji can have a unification. or even Civilante non-Shinga might be able to get a unification with them as well. But um, essentially, it was a very sort of close fight. A lot of it was fought in the pocket. There was no there was not really much sort of movement from either guy. There wasn't any sort of in and out work. A lot of it was very much stand in front of each other, work to the body, try to outland the opponent, try to sort of jab over the top of your opponent's jab. A lot of high guards, a lot of it was a fairly entertaining fight. It was a lot closer than the 117-111 scorecard suggested. I don't really. I think it was one of those 115-113 either way type fights. There's no one could have got more than 7 rounds watching it. So for Gonzalez to get 9, I mean I can't even say it was hometown cooking because they're both Puerto Rican. But yeah, it clearly showed who was the house fighter, who was the promotional sort of the promotional affiliated fighter in that one. Yeah, it wasn't it's not what I'm going to talk too much about, but the in my opinion the right person did win. I just think that scorecard was a little bit too wide. Then there was a 116-112 and a 115-113, which I think those two were more in keeping. um, yeah, 116-112 is probably the least egregious of a bad card, I would say, that you could have. But yeah, pretty much that's that one. Um, Tony, moving over to
Did you want to just tell the people why Amanda Serrano didn't fight on Saturday? Because that everybody may not be aware, but those last 2 fights that Base were talking about were scheduled originally on the Amanda Serrano versus Nina Menke undercard. But that
you
fight
tell
was
them. You tell them.
I don't know the reason why. I just know it
You
was
don't.
pulled on Friday night.
No, it was pulled on. It was pulled at the time of the fight.
Okay.
Okay, so for those of you who are not aware, I thought this was common knowledge by now to the public, but maybe it's not. Amanda Serrano apparently, when she was getting her hair done on Thursday, one of the chemicals from the hair, the gel, the spray, the stuff, whatever they was using, so apparently got into her eye and caused the irritation to her eye and burnt the cornea. Also, apparently, it caused some damage to her hand as well, which I'm not sure, but that's what I heard. So she was doing her pre-fight medicals. Obviously, I was bothering her then. Apparently, she was then obviously bothering her the day after, but she had some drops, thought it was okay. She did a pre-fight medical with the doctor in the changing rooms, and the doctor said, "I can't let you go out there with your eye in that condition because her cornea was exposed." So she apparently they was trying to work. They was trying to um, basically do whatever they could to keep the fight on. She apparently was pleading with the doctor, "Look, let me go out there. It's fine. I'll take the risk." And the doctor just said, "No, no chance. Not gonna happen." And so that's why ultimately the card stayed on and stayed going ahead. And then she didn't compete at the end of the night. But being as a very gracious gesture to Nina Mainkate. Nina got her full purse. Apparently, the only she would have only been entitled to half of it for the fact that the fight day happened, but she got given a full purse. The entire undercard got paid, and everyone who bought tickets in attendance were offered full refunds if they wanted to claim them. So um, I would say big up to Amanda and the team for the way they handled that. And I know that my guy Beats from Boxing Beats and Rhyme. Shout out to him. He believes the that it was disrespectful that they kept the event on and didn't just cancel it earlier and just made people go there under the assumption they would see Amanda. But I disagreed with him and I said, look, I actually think I think they did the right thing. Obviously, if you're not 100% sure that it's not going to get called off, you keep it going. But outside of that, a card was had. The entire undercard people got to fight, so their training camps weren't wasted. They've gotten paid. Nina's gotten paid. So if they cancelled it, she wouldn't have got anything at all. She got paid, and everyone who attended is getting a refund if they want it. So they still got a night's worth of action with some pretty good fights, and they get a refund. To me, I feel like that's a win-win in a bad situation. So yes, they didn't get the fight they wanted, but I personally think that they handled it the best way. Now, I might be in the minority in that, but I think they did the right thing by keeping the card on for everyone else. And as I said, the fact everyone's getting refunds and it wasn't just sold under false pretenses, yeah, salute to them. Um, and I guess because we're talking about it really quickly, Jake Paul faced Ryan Bourland, first round knockout. Um, Ryan Bourland, former Golden Gloves. I think he was a former Golden Gloves youth champion, but I don't know what's happened to him since then. But he looked extremely punchy. He didn't take a shot well from the very first jab that landed to him, so there could be some issues with him, like maybe neurologically, or maybe he's taken some some beatings and stuff that we're not aware of in the past, because every single shot troubled him and bothered him. So um it's another win for Jake Paul. He's staying active. He said he's gonna wants to try and get out again in around June time, June, July. I commend him on that because he's keeping more active than some of the other so-called, boxers that a lot of people like to laud and say are the cream of the crop. Um, and he's fighting quote unquote real licensed boxers now. So a lot of the things that people had the issues with before can't really say that anymore. He's doing what you asked, and as a novice, or like someone that's only been in the sport a few years, he's fighting the kind of people you're supposed to be fighting. So yeah, no issues with that. Congrats to him, and again, big respect to him, Nikisa Badarian, Amanda Serrano for the way they handled obviously the main event not taking place. Right, moving back over to the top rank card now. Tony, did you see anything of the Troy Isley and William Hernandez fight?
So I've got the highlights for you ready for you to tell us about it, because the knockout, or the finish, I should say, is very spectacular.
But
So
did you
that is
see
a
any of it?
no.
Okay, all right. So this one, I mean, I've been quite high on Troy Isley for about a year and a half now. Um, I think he's just a really good he's a really sort of good slip boxer trained by Bomac. He's very comfortable in the pocket, and as you guys can see, obviously that was the end of the fight. But middleweight, he's a prospect, but he's slowly moving to that contendership status. Now he's one of those type of boxers. The one bad thing about Troy Isley is that he will coast in fights if his opponent isn't of the level to bother him, or he doesn't think they're on his level. He won't basically turn up the gas and just make short work of them. He'll sort of labor, he'll linger about, he'll sometimes he'll take some shots that he doesn't need to, or he'll ride some shots and block some stuff on the gloves just for the sake of it. A lot of the time he's the kind of person that fights to the level of his opposition. He'll fight down to them, or he'll fight up to them. Now Hernandez was obviously he's no great shakes, but he is very formidable, and he's the kind of guy that will obviously test you. He'll keep pushing and keep trying and keep trying. And in this one, the Troy Isley basically, I don't feel like he was tired at any point in the fight because he never really had to move his legs. He stuck to the pocket. It was almost like him and Hernandez had like a rubber band around each other's legs, where like you can't get past like a foot away from each other. That's how close they were throughout the majority of the rounds. And Isley was just in on the inside, extremely comfortable, slipping, riding, rolling. Good upper body movement, very good body work. The body work really started to affect Hernandez, especially I think rounds 3, 4, and 5. And that's when, yeah, Isaac just sort of started turning it up a little bit, but he still was taking his time. He wasn't trying to rush anything. He works to his pace, and he's the kind of person that slows the fight down so that the fight is on his pace at all time and on his terms. Hence why he never really looks gassed or out of breath when he's in the ring. So that's something that I think is a very good trait from him. He's not the biggest puncher. He's 12-0 now. That was only his fifth KO, believe it or not. Even though he was able to, sort of to drop Hernandez, drop Marcus Hernandez as heavily as he did. He's not a noted knockout puncher, but a part of that again is because he kind of just labors in his in a lot of his fights. But I think the screw or the switch might have been flicked now, and he's basically in a mode and in a position where he might start stepping it up and turning up the gas. But he's definitely one to watch in that middleweight division. There's not a great there's not a great deal of talent in that division, especially overseas at the minute. We've got some good domestic guys over here, but he's definitely in the mix, and I want to see a lot more of him moving forward. So yeah, big ups to Troy Isley, and yeah, it was a really good performance. Now, with that being said, we only got one more fight to talk about, so we've kind of zoomed through the show on this one. Tony's gonna lead this one because he wanted to give his full undivided plaudits and analysis to this. So this is obviously Otabek Kholmatov against Raymond Savage Ford. Tony, take it away.
Yes, indeed. So, guys, this fight is available to watch on YouTube. Please go watch this fight. It's very entertaining. This was easily the best fight of the weekend. But it has a very, very big twist at the end. It has a massive twist. So let me set the sort of the pace, the picture of what we've got here. We got Ray Savage Ford, 24 years old, up against Otabek Bruce Lee Kholmatov, 25 years old, 1 year difference. Both 5'7", both weighed in on target, 125.9, 125.8. The WBA number 1 in Kholmatov versus the WBA number 2 in Ford. Ford from New Jersey, Otabek, Uzbekistan. Both were outstanding amateurs. Both had good records in the amateurs. Now they've both got undefeated records in the professionals. And this is their battle for the WBA featherweight vacant championship belt. Now, Ray Ford coming into this fight hadn't fought for 11 months. So there was some ring rust that had built up before this fight, which makes you think, did that affect his performance tonight on the night of the fight? Whereas Otabek Kholmatov had boxed twice last year. But I want you to see something very interesting that I picked up when I was looking at his record. This is the last 3 years for
That's Ford.
Ford, yeah? 3 fights 21, 3 fights 22, 1 fight 23. Then look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fights. This is the entire career of Otabek Kholmatov. 9 fights in his first year as a professional. Fighting twice in November, twice in October, twice in August. The guy was on a rapid tear to get to the top. And obviously, this is the kind of record that makes you go, wow, somebody really wanted to get that guy up. And obviously you see there's a load of knockouts there. But, look, not only did you knock a guy out in 2 rounds or 3 rounds at the beginning of November, but then you went back in literally a week later, fought another guy. I know he was a 0-11 fighter, but you knocked him out in 3 rounds. So his career's padded, but he certainly did his work in that initial year. And obviously the amateur pedigree came to the fore. And it's interesting that amateur pedigree, to me, the fundamentals of an Uzbek fighter were far better than the American-based fighters. And that's something we've seen in the amateurs. Obviously, the Eastern Bloc European countries have been extremely successful in world championships and amateur and Olympic games. Lomachenko being one of those. Usyk, Dvorstik, Bivol. You know, there's the names are just there. They're all very successful, and obviously the Americans haven't had an Olympic champion for how many years now? So it's interesting. We got the Eastern European versus the American. Let's get into the fight. Now, Ray Ford, just so you know, has trained up to get ready for this fight with Shakur Stevenson. So he's actually working out with one of the best fighters in the game to get ready for this fight. Both came in on weight. As you can see, Kholmatov has a slight height advantage, very slight, even though they're both listed as 5'7". But you can see clearly Kholmatov does, I believe, have a slight height advantage as they stand there toe to toe. You can see it there. That's clear. There's no way they're both the same height. Anyway, I've got this. This fight is so exciting. You're going to see lots of good action in patches here. But I'll go through what happened in the fight according to me. In round one, Kholmatov came out and he just threw punches. You know, nice long jab. The 1-2, you can see it there. The 1-2-3, the 1-2, the 1-2-3, the left right, the hook to the body. He came out in round one and looked like silk. Just beautiful boxing. You know, at the moment, this what you're looking at here is from the middle rounds of the fight. So actually, we're not seeing the beautiful footwork and boxing skills that Kholmatov was utilizing in rounds 1, 2, and 3. In this stage of the fight, he started to get a little bit happy to go in and trade with Ray Ford. But essentially, during the early rounds, you know, he was dominant. Just a little bit back, you did see him receive a very good shot, straight left from Ray Ward. But he also gave back, and this is a clip from round 3 where he had Ray spinning. You know, there's a good shot coming in. Boom, there you go. And as you saw, Ray's legs bent, and he was on shaky legs for the rest of that round. But yeah, you know, I've got so much respect for Otabek Kholmatov. His boxing was excellent. For any of my boys from Kroikas who watch this, you know, if you watch the fight, you'll see some excellent ring craft. You know, his movement around the ring in those early rounds was so much better than what you're seeing here, where he's actually engaging. But what I did appreciate was he didn't just dance around. You know, he sat on punches. He you know, he as you can see, he's keeping himself active, being first, throwing combination shots. As you can see, this is what happens when you throw hands, because essentially what happened was Kholmatov came out. He started in the first round throwing 1-2s. He won first round, and then in the second round, he kind of stepped up the work rate, and he became more aggressive. There was a slip by Ford in the second round, but it wasn't from a punch. And so the second round was more of Kholmatov just basically going out and boxing superbly against Ray Ford. In round 3, big looping overhand left hook catches Ray Ford. But Ray's got a great chin, and to his credit, he comes through that shot and he gives back some of his own. But on sheer work rate alone, Kholmatov right now is establishing himself. He's using great movement of feet. He's moving around his opponent at will, controlling the pace of the fight. and basically, you know, just dominating from start to finish. At fourth round, Ray starts to pressure Kholmatov. He suddenly realizes that, you know what, this you know, trying to box with this guy is not working. So we see a different technique. Now we see a change of technique from Ray Ford. And what we see is we see this. We see the peekaboo, where he's like, okay, I'm going to come in here, try to get in close, apply foot pressure, and then try to work you inside the body and up to the head. And he applies that pressure. But unfortunately for him, Kholmatov is very comfortable boxing on the back foot, throwing quick 1-2s. And literally, in round 4, I closed my eyes for a sec, and all I heard was do, 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 do. And all it was Kholmatov throwing a 3-punch combination every time. It was like literally like clockwork. Do, 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 do. You know, the 3-punch combination. Ford did have some success with his short-range body attacks, but it still wasn't enough from my perspective to win the rounds. Now, listening to the commentary, the American commentary, they seem to find that, you know, this fight was getting close. In my eyes, Kholmatov was dominant still at this stage, even although Ray Ford had changed his style of attack. In round 5, you see Kholmatov going with some great body jabs. Now he's throwing jabs to the body, and he's coming up to the head. He's starting to mess Ford up with mixing up his shots, because Ray now, because his hair is unable to defend the body, and so Kholmatov is just picking off the body shots, and he's mixing it up, head body body head body body head body head head body, and it's just confusing Ray. And again, you know, we're in round 5, and Kholmatov just looks like he's on the money. He's got Ray by everything. But in this 5th round, in the 3rd minute of the round, Kholmatov has boxed his head off for 2 rounds. Ray Ford suddenly gets really in close with Kholmatov, and he starts to apply pressure. And it's at the end of this fight, end of round 5, where I kind of go, maybe that's the closest round to me. I still give the round to Kholmatov, but I certainly looked at round 5 and went, maybe Ray is now seeing how he can affect the fight. And in the last minute, he was the better fighter. He was getting crisper, hard punches onto Kholmatov. But based on the early 2 minutes of the round, I still gave the round to Kholmatov. Round 6 was basically the same thing. 2 minutes of lovely, beautiful boxing by Kholmatov. Ray Ford in the last minute turns it on and starts to punish Kholmatov to the body and hit him with some really strong punches to the head. Round 7. So minute 1, you've got again the great combinations from Kholmatov. Minute 2 is kind of even, but minute 3 again very strong from Ray. And it's at this point you see Kholmatov almost appears like he's taking the round off, because he stops throwing punches and he's just circling. And at this point, Ray's able to close in and start hurting Kholmatov to the body and the head, mainly to the body though, which is a good strategy because Kholmatov's very good on the move. Round 8 is, to me, Ray Ford's first and best round. And I'm just going by what I saw. The commentators had it fairly close, and I was like, how are they having this fight close? And it's what you like. Ray, some other people might watch this fight and think Ray Ford was in it. He might have shared some of the rounds. Maybe they were swing rounds. But for me, Kholmatov, up until this point, was the better part of this fight. And maybe I give Ray round 7, but he definitely wins round 8. He catches Kholmatov and he tries to finish him off. You can see he's hurt Kholmatov. Kholmatov is spinning and moving around the ring in a retreating fashion, like he knows he's hurt, and Ray's just going after him and punishing him to the body and head when he gets a hold of him. That all took place in the first minute. The last 2 minutes, Kholmatov is just trying to regain any kind of semblance of stability in the ring. So it's a clear round to Ray Ford. He's done extremely well. Round 9. I don't know what they said in the corner. I don't know what they're giving this kid. But Kholmatov comes back out and he's on some kind of heat because he comes out in round 9 after suffering his first real proper beatdown in round 8, and he just beats the crap out of Ray Ford in round 9. Now, the volume of punching is less, but the accuracy of punching is what I see in round 9. Kholmatov is circling Ray, and he's picking him off with some of the most beautiful punches you could possibly see a guy throwing when he's circling a fighter. And so, round to Kholmatov. Round 10, Kholmatov still on his toes, still using his Eastern European Uzbeki style, in and out, beating Ray in and out. But in the last 10 seconds, Ray hits Kholmatov in the last 10 seconds of round 10. He hits Kholmatov, bang, with a straight left. And visibly, you can see Kholmatov is like, what the hell? Now, it's a chin check of the highest variety, but he stands on his feet, doesn't fall, doesn't wobble, but he almost like shudders into a standstill for a good 1.5, 2 seconds. And you're like, wow. And it's lucky for him that it's the 10th round. And sorry, the last 10 seconds of the 10th round. He looked dazed, but he saw his way through it, which leads us into round 11. Ray Ford's corner saying, this is a close fight. You've got 2 rounds in which to win it. And I'm thinking to myself, he needs a knockout. He's lost too many rounds. But again, as I said, the commentary team, they're seeing something that I'm not seeing, because up to now, I see this as a streak away for Kholmatov. And, Ray Ford at this stage needs a knockout. So we go to war in round 11. Literally, I've written here, war. Round 11, in a championship fight, action has not slowed. These 2 combatants require great credit for their fitness coming into this fight, because through 12 rounds and coming into this 11th round, the spirit, the heart, the desire, the fitness that these guys came into round 11 was like, yeah, there was no easy rounds. There's no, I'm taking this round off. Nah, they came through all what they had to do. And round 11 is a war. Ray Ford comes out like he knows. I think he knows he's really behind. But the corner have said, I've listened to the corner. They said it's 2 rounds to go and is this yours to win? But he comes out big time. Boom, hits Kholmatov and starts getting into Kholmatov, but Kholmatov comes back at him and therefore initiates a toe-to-toe, head-to-head war. So whereas previously we're seeing a lot of dancing around, moving around, picking shots in the first 2 minutes, in this round, they literally stand in the middle of the ring, stand head-to-head, and they're going bam, 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 bam. And they're literally picking beautiful shots between the 2 of you. At this stage, because they are head-to-head, this is where there's a head clash occurs, and it cuts Ray Ford underneath the left cheek. But it's at this point where I feel like Kholmatov, he, to me, extinguished his tank. He literally threw everything and the kitchen sink to try and get rid of Ray Ford in round 11. Obviously, he must have been spurred on by seeing the blood coming down his face and thought to himself, maybe I can take him out of here. But again, last 10 seconds, Ford hits Kholmatov with 2 bombs. And again, I'm like, what has this guy got in his chin? I mean, flush. You couldn't. He picks this one shot from Mississippi, and flush straight down on the chin of Kholmatov, and you're like, "Rah, how's my man still standing on his feet?" So ultimate credit, and then so the War of Round 11, great round, wonderful round. It's a pick'em round. You know, you could give it Ray, you could give it Kholmatov, but it's a great round all round. And that leads us into round 12, where I'm thinking it's got to be knockout or dust for Ray Ford. And once again, I don't know how Kholmatov does it. He's on his toes again. He's bouncing in and out, and he's dancing. Now, in my estimation, he needed to continue dancing for the 3 rounds. This is one of them where you go, whatever you do, do not engage with that guy. Do not take a chance. Because to me, if I'm in his corner, I'm like, you must have 8 rounds, easy. And that's me being conservative. You must have 8 rounds in the bag. You've never been knocked down, so don't take a chance. Pepper him, but stay out of range. And what the hell happens? We basically come down to the last 10 seconds, and Ray Ford is going for bust. And as you saw on the video, he hits Kholmatov with a shot. It ends up discombobulating Kholmatov. He prances round the ring on like Thomas Hearn type jelly legs and gets stopped in his corner with 8 seconds left. Unbelievable. I wrote it on my notes. Unbelievable. I mean, it just oozed of Meldrick Taylor against Julio Cesar Chavez, the first fight, where the referee stops the fight, and there's no way that the guy who loses would have lost had he just let him get to the 8 seconds that was left in the fight. And that's, again, as I said, that's my view of the fight. I cannot see how Kholmatov doesn't win that easily. You know, scoring at least eight rounds in that fight. But it's an exciting fight. It's an excellent advert for boxing. 2 great champions. I would love a rerun. But again, it's in the featherweight division. They you know, it's a stacked division. Ray Ford, I believe, plans to move up straight away.
That is the plan, but he has said he will stick around for one more if it can be made very quickly, the unification with Nick Ball, if Nick Ball wins on Friday. And since that's going to take place in June, he said if it can happen by June, he'll stick around for that fight. If not, he's moving up to 130. Well, very good and detailed breakdown of the fight analysis of the rounds. I do disagree with you with rounds 4, rounds 5, and round 7. I definitely think those were Ray Ford rounds. The 4th round is when he changed the tactics and stopped trying to box and move and decided to actually sit and stay in the pocket and push back the puncher, push back and bully the bully. And I feel like he got the best of that round. It was close because obviously Kholmatov started the round well, but Ray have forcing him back, pushing him back, making him have to work, hitting him with the jab, then starting investing in the body in that round. And to me, he took that one. To me, he clearly took the 5th. I don't know how you gave the 5th to Kholmatov, but fair enough. 6th round, Kholmatov got it back. And that's when Ray Ford said in the corner at the end, I'm gonna stop him. I'm gonna stop him. And then round 7 came out pressuring work. Like Kholmatov was obviously doing, he was holding his own, but he was still getting pushed back in that one. 8th round dominant for Ray Ford, but yeah, 9th round was a strong Kholmatov round, and you felt like, oh, maybe he took some rounds off. Is he coming back strong? 10th round was sort of nip and tuck, but Kholmatov probably just nicked that one. And then the 11th round, I think Ray Ford was winning the 11th up until the cut took place. And then I feel that Kholmatov maybe just nicked it at the end. So I do think that Kholmatov was ahead on scorecards. I had it 6-5 going into the 12th. So I thought Ray would need a strong round just to get a draw, or if he got a knockdown, then a he might just about edge a split decision. But due to the way that the two judges had, or the three judges had it scored, two of them had it scored 10, what was it? I think it was 107, 104 to Kholmatov, and then the last one had it 105, 106 to Ray Ford. So yeah, it was very, very close, and the knockdown probably would have turned it into a majority draw based on those scorecards, or potentially a split or a majority decision. Not 100% sure, but yeah, Ray Ford, to his credit, took it out of the judge's hands. He was on away territory. He knew that he was on away territory, and he didn't take a chance of it letting it go to the scorecards, which is really and truly the best way that you have to fight when you're on another promotion and you know that they've now got a vested interest in this guy. The interesting thing will be what they do with Kholmatov moving forward, because yes, as you see, he had 9 fights in his first year, but then he only had one fight the year after, and then one fight the year after. No, then 2 fights the year after that. So his he was in Uzbekistan for those first 8 months of his career. Wasn't obviously fighting anyone of any great note. Wasn't fighting um, like the top levels, and the he wasn't fighting sort of the best guys. If you look at the two records, I had Ray Ford winning the fight. I predicted he'd win purely because the level of competition he'd been in the ring with was much better. Even the Thomas Patrick Ward fight isn't better than a Jesse Magdaleno or Aaron Perez to me. So I always felt that he had the experience, but the fact that he won the fight in a way that I didn't think would be possible. I thought that he could sort of control the fight and make it clear and dominant that he's winning. I never thought he'd stop him. Not because he's not a big puncher, but I just didn't think that would be the game plan he'd impose, knowing that the other guy is such a big puncher. But yeah, he went in there and he outpunched and outfought the puncher, outfought the bully, showed that high knockout percentages don't mean much, don't mean anything, especially when you've got a good chin, you've got very good tight defense, and you have got very good ring craft. And salute to Ray Ford, the first of the Matchroom USA stables um, to go from pro debut to world title, and it's a great thing to see. Shout out to him. I actually didn't think he would get there. Um, well, I thought he would have a possibility, but there were a few fights like a few years back, and I was saying, okay, I think he's gonna do well, but I don't know if he's gonna win a world title or not win one for a little while. I didn't know how long it would take, but he got to the title a lot quicker than I thought he would. But he's also he looks like from the Magdalena fight to that one, he's improved leaps and bounds. Now the 11 months out, yes, it clearly did hurt him. He said it was a horrible weight cut. It was one of the hardest he's had. He can feel his body's just obviously outgrowing it, and being out of the ring for 11 months. That's one thing that I would say. And sometimes it's not even just the fighters, it's the promoters as well. But for instance, someone like Eddie Hearn, who he's got multiple fight dates. He's got the money to put behind a lot of these guys. There was no, unless Ray Ford was coming off of like a broken hand or something, which he wasn't. There's no reason that you can't find 11 um that you can't find 11 a fight for him in 11 months of time to keep him active, especially when these younger weights and these guys are young and just getting bigger. You've got to keep them in continuous camp so that their bodies don't get a chance to balloon out of that of that space. And I know he was delaying and trying to wait for this title shot, but and I know he's on this thing of no easy fights and whatnot, and I get that, but you could have put him on an undercard like sort of 5 6 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, just to keep him fresh against a decent level, stay busy and keep busy opponent. Um, when it comes to like the big, like I said, the big promoters, I don't think there's any excuse or any reason why you can't keep your people active. Especially if they, unless you don't believe that they're gonna do anything, in which case, all right, you only put them in the big fights to make money. But when it comes to guys like that, those really talented guys, you just gotta keep them in the ring, even against like I said, lesser opposition. Not obviously no, like a tin can, but someone that can maybe, can give you some work, but you're just in there to keep the tool sharp and to keep staying in that camp mode, and so that your body doesn't balloon out. Um, but yeah, look, big respect to Ray Ford. Um, really good fight. Come from behind victory, very similar to the Oshaki Foster and Eduardo Nunes fight from last October. All good. And Eddie, if you're watching this, I'll put it on Twitter X, and everyone has seen it. I will keep posting on there. I was the first person to say Ray Ford against Nick Ball as a fight for the 5v5. So if that fight gets made, I want my fee. Um, I'm gonna clip this up and I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna put it onto. I'm gonna tag you. I'm gonna make sure you know, and I'm gonna post up next to the video of me and you. And I was saying also, if the Anthony Yard and Craig Richards fight was to be made, I also want my fee because I was the only person uh, campaigning for that fight early on. Um, and there's evidence; it's all there. So, yeah, just so everyone here can see, and that was initially muted on the 15th of January. Long before everyone else was giving other takes. Those are some of the fights I put down. So if they happen, I want my fee because I know you and the rest of the Matchroom team are watching my Twitex. I know you are. Too many times I say things and then all of a sudden it happens for you guys not to be watching. But that's the that's the end of that. Tony, have you got anything you want to end on with before we shut down?
Yes, just a reminder, guys. This Friday, don't forget the team undefeated: Travis J, KG, Base the Kid, Tony the Pugilist Boy will be in attendance at Bricks London, 16 Great Oak Guildford Street. Do get your tickets. They're on Eventbrite. Go look it up on any of our socials. You should be able to find the links on how to get tickets. There are some still available. Would be lovely to see you down there, guys. If you can make it, bring your girlfriends because it's not an all-male situation. There's going to be some nice people. There's going to be some good food. I've seen the menu down there, and I'm actually looking forward to going down and trying out the food. I've been meaning to go there for a while, so it's actually a 2-for-1 for me, getting an opportunity to eat at a nice restaurant and watching some boxing with some good people. So hopefully we'll see you down there. Let's get the manner of the
Hold
banners
on,
in.
before you do no, wait. Before we do that, um, couple comments to Jam Down 187. A lot of Kholmatov's punches were being scored even though it was landing on gloves or arms. I think a lot of people were influenced by combinations Kholmatov was throwing. I could agree with that. Obviously, I'll put up Tyler's comment prior to that. Philip also said when I saw this after I actually made the similarity, yeah, between Oshaki Foster and Rocky Hernandez. It was a very similar fight to that. Jamdan also says, I'm with you, Base. I can hand on heart say I thought Amor Williams had a better chance of winning the world title. Yeah. I think you know what? I'll be honest. Not my stock, but my enthusiasm for Amor or thinking where he could go kind of dipped a bit when he had his little sort of mental or his sort of mental health breakdown episode or his the problems that he was having. He was out of the ring for a while, and I thought, okay, that's going to kind of be the end of that. But he did come back from there, and he's been looking really good since, and he's been looking a lot more composed and less rushed in his work. So yeah, I think he's still got a good trajectory, but I don't think he's quite ready for the Yanni Becks just yet. But he's not far from it. Philip Answer, I wish I could be there. Commiserations, Philip, man. Look, the great defeaters will be there. You'll be there in spirit. You'll be there with us. I'll make sure that when I get on the mic, I'll make sure I hail you out. And just give you a shout out because you've been a loyal supporter, not just to obviously this show and Monday Night Smoke, but you're loyal on my channel. You always pass through the videos, leave a comment, and watch the content. So big ups to you. Fight Fan TV Live says I'm working that night. So pissed I would have been there. But oh, Danny, you told me you was going, man. So what? They gave you some shifts like last minute. That's unfortunate. Would have been good.
These results.
No one don't want you. Shut up. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate, Danny. I thought you because the other day we were speaking, you said you would be there. So yeah, unfortunately, you're not going to be there. But again, you'll be there in spirit as well. You're a very valuable member, or guest member of the team. Always there in the pinch when called upon. So again, you get another hail up and shout out just like anyone else. But yeah, looking forward to seeing any and everyone who does show up. Um, I can be a little antisocial at times, but I promise I will be very charitable and I will try and have a smile on my face for the majority of the event. But yeah, anyone who does turn up, feel free come chat to me. You know, I'm always up for having a decent conversation.
Yes, Dan the man, we will be there.
Yes, Dan, big up to you. See you there. Right, so Tony, tell them where they can find you on the socials.
So, guys, I can be found on Twitter and YouTube as Pugilistboy. But on Instagram, where pretty much most of my life I live, is Pugilistic Boy.
And as for myself, it's BaseDaKID, the hardcore casual, just as it's written there for the YouTube. Instagram and Threads, I'm on there as well. You can follow me in there. I haven't really been posting much recently. I don't post boxing content, but sometimes in the stories you might catch a gem or two. I will start to post more once I've sorted out a few other life situations. And then the main place, if you want to see any of my just general takes, is B_A_S_E on Twitex, or you can just start to type BaseDaKID, and I am the first person that pops up. So clearly I am doing something right. Should have some content on my channel tomorrow. I'm also going to start doing a live stream once a week. I just haven't decided if it's going to be on Wednesdays or Thursdays at the moment, but the first one was really good, so I'm definitely going to carry that on. I got a couple interviews on the channel from Sunday and Monday. I did a follow-up interview with Connor Wallace, who is a Australian light heavyweight, 13-1. He's fighting a guy called Jack Gipp, and that's on St. Patrick's Day, so the 17th of March. And then he is looking to fight if he gets through that one. He wants to take on Willie Hutchinson from Queensbury to move up those rankings. But he's also said he's got his eye on the rest of the British division, and he's ready to fight any and anyone that they put in front of him. So interesting to see that. Also, Justice Hooney, who you guys would have seen in the open workout earlier, got another interview with him. About 7-minute interview I've done, which uploaded yesterday, just before talking about his fight with Kevin Loreno. So if you guys haven't seen it, please jump over to the channel, have a look, leave a comment, let me give you some feedback, let me know what you think. And yeah, some new content will be out tomorrow as well. So with that being said, bless ups to everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. Oh, go ahead, Tony.
So one last one, because it just came to me. Good luck to friend of the station, Zizou Al-Mayyouf.
Zizou Al-Mayyouf, yep.
Yeah. Who is fighting, I think he's the first bout on the Joshua Ngannou card on Friday night. Good luck, Zizou.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get him back on the show after the fight. I'll leave that one up to you to sort out. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good one. Sleep well. Have a good week and be safe. Until next time, peace.
We're out.